The evaluation forms have been updated since the previous in-person competition. If you have volunteered to judge in the last couple of years, it is the same evaluation form. The evaluation form now is 80% historical accuracy and 20% clarity of presentation. I apologize, this isn't a screencast. The district has blocked some of that stuff for a few weeks. In the 80% of these categories, I do want you to note that in the updated evaluation form, it looks like a rubric in the sense that it has designations for each of the categories from fair to superior. But if you look in here at the definitions of each one of those categories, it is still fairly subjective. So my point in a couple of their videos was to discuss with your co-judges what you mean in each of the categories before you actually mark the sheets. And it's okay to discuss that after you've met with a student before you mark it. You still have your own independent choices to make with that. For example, in the historical argument, this one says thorough and this one says some evidence. So that is still fairly subjective. So make sure you discuss that with your co-judges so that you have at least the same ballpark of understanding of these categories. And then when you get with your consensus judging, if you're in one of the bigger categories, remember that this is a notes sheet. It's not a score sheet. So as you're looking at this, make sure that you understand that it doesn't have to be only the students that have all superior. Some of the projects might be better because some judges are a little bit easier to give a superior than others. So I hope you understand what I mean by that. Now, in the argument, what we're looking for is a good historical argument with the theme woven throughout. This year, the annual theme is Frontiers. I'll talk about that more in a second video. In this case, we are looking at wide research. Make sure when we talk about wide research, it's not just the total number of sources. We're also looking for a variety of types of sources in that research. The wide research, there is no minimum required number of sources. It just has to be enough sources to make sense for the argument. Here we have primary sources. Sometimes students like to put primary sources on that don't actually deal with the argument. So make sure that when they have the primary sources, the goal is that the primary sources are helping to support the argument. That's the superior category, is that they're using the primary sources correctly and not just that they have a lot of them. This section here is historical context. When they refer to historical context, they're referring to the context of the event, not are they putting the primary sources in context. So this means whatever the event is, are they talking about the causation, both immediate causation and sort of the long-term causes of the event. So for example, when we teach about World War I, we talk about the main causes, which are the long-term things like militarism and secret alliances and nationalism. That would be a long-term causation that the World War I is put into. But the immediate cause would be the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. That would be sort of the immediate context. So make sure you're looking for both long and short-term context. Multiple perspectives is a little tricky for students. So for example, if we're looking at the Boston Tea Party, multiple perspectives would include not just the Sons of Liberty throwing the tea in the harbor, but the Tories that were there, the Loyalists, maybe even the people in Great Britain and what their view of the situation was, so that it's not just a one-sided story. Historical accuracy. This one, you might not know the topic, you might not be familiar with all of the facts, but hopefully they have cited everything enough and they have enough information that it proves that their project is accurate. And then we have significance. This is the outcomes. So both short-term outcomes, what are the immediate impacts, and then what are the long-term impacts? That is, why does it matter still today? How is it still impacting the world today? And the last one is probably the most difficult, and this is student voice. We want to make sure that the students aren't just repeating the arguments that they're hearing in other textbooks or in other books, and they're actually taking things and kind of putting them all together into their own significant argument. Now the back side of the down here is where you'd put your notes, right, and your feedback for the students. Again, while this is a note sheet, the students are going to get a copy of this evaluation form. So please make sure that you're giving them positive feedback and you're giving them enough information that they can see that their projects were judged and that they're getting good quality feedback on the projects. The backside is clarity of presentation. This is different in every category, so make sure that you look at the clarity of presentation before you start looking at the projects. In general, we're not necessarily looking for the prettiest project. We're looking for well organized, we're looking for clean, we're looking for a project that the information is easily recognizable, grammatically correct, those types of things. So again, look at the categories, and before you start judging, I will try to put you in categories that you've seen before. Down here, these are the rules violations. Rule violations are not an automatic disqualifier. You can use the rule violations as like a tiebreaker if you have a couple of projects you think are kind of on equal footing. That's fine. If you have a project that clearly you think should advance, but it does violate one of the rules, like for example, it goes 10.5 minutes on a documentary when the rule is 10 minutes, make note of that and tell them that it has to be fixed for the state competition. That's okay. That's just feedback. Now, if it's a clear violation, if it's 15 minutes long, then that can be factored into your assessment as well. Again, all of this is up to you. These are not rubrics and score sheets. These are your notes that are going to be passed on to the students. So ultimately, the decision on who advances is up to you.